Welcome to the Future of Field Service podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Nicastro. Here we are, we have found ourselves at the end of 2023, and it is time for our annual Top 10 episode. I find it pretty challenging to do these every year and narrow down all of the great guests that we've had on the podcast to just 10. However, I do like doing these episodes for two reasons. One, I think for our regular listeners, it gives folks an opportunity to take a look or listen at this list and see if there's anything that they missed that they might want to go back to. And perhaps more importantly, for folks that are new to the podcast, because we are now at almost 250 episodes, it gives them a really good starting point of episodes to go and check out. So appreciate everyone that has been a part of Future of Field Service podcast this year, all of the guests that have come on and shared their stories, their insights, their experiences, their challenges. You all make this community what it is. Certainly, hard to narrow it down, but I'm going to go through what I picked as the top 10. These are in order of oldest to most recent, so not necessarily in any ranked order, okay? So the first one on the list is episode 200, which is the neuroscience of leading through change with Dr. Elizabeth Moran. I loved this podcast because change management is obviously a huge topic in service. And in this episode, Elizabeth not only gives some really good neuroscience concepts, but we talk about, some of the differences in managing change and leading through change. Great episode. The next one is episode 205, which was my recipe for success using service as a competitive advantage with Venkata Reddy Muku, who is the vice president for worldwide service and support at Bruker Nano. I absolutely loved this episode. I love Venkata's mindset around leadership and the detail he gave on how he puts his efforts, how he prioritizes his efforts on his teams and people, and why he feels that is the best use of his time as a leader. Really, really good episode. Next is episode 206, Busting the Biggest Burnout Myths with Kate Donovan, who is a speaker, an author, and she is the host of the Fried podcast. Kate found her career absolutely blowing up when COVID happened because so many people started experiencing burnout. And she has wonderful energy. She's incredibly smart and knows so much about the topic, and has, really practical viewpoints, really helpful perspectives for both individuals who might be, feeling that they're at risk of burnout, and also organizations who are looking to ensure that their teams aren't burning out. Next is episode 207, How Whirlpool Creates Field Service Differentiation. This was with both Simone Silva, Senior Director of Consumer Services, and Matt Gannis, Director of Home Services. They joined to talk about the path they've chosen in terms of field service differentiation with using entirely independent service providers, and how they've been able to do that without sacrificing customer experience, success, and what that collaboration looks like. I loved this take because often when we start thinking about leveraging any sort of third party to execute our service delivery, there's, this some fear around, what will happen if we lose control. And we talk about how control shouldn't be the focus. And that's part of what has made this work well for Whirlpool. Next is episode 217, Debunking the Myths That Impede Workplace Inclusion with Mita Malik, who published her book, Reimagine Inclusion, this fall. Mita is such a shining light on LinkedIn, a very well recognized voice at this point. I was thrilled that she came back to the podcast. She was on early on in the podcast days to talk about this topic and give sort of a sneak peek into her book. Mita's book, Reimagine Inclusion, gives a very honest look at some of the things that are really, holding us back from the progress we need to be making around inclusion. I think this is a must listen on the podcast, and definitely would recommend getting her book. Episode 222, Breaking the Outdated Field Service Mold. This was with Anthony Billups, North American Vice President of Sales and Market Development at Comfort Systems. I liked this because we just had a really open discussion around a lot of the different areas of historical thinking, arguably outdated practices that we both feel are really holding field service back from the change it needs to be making to succeed in today's landscape. So really enjoyed speaking with Anthony. Episode 226, How Can Service Leaders Nurture Empowerment? This was with co-authors of the book Once Upon a Leader, Christine Miners and Rick Lash. They gave a keynote presentation at Field Service Palm Springs this year, and it was so well received. Rick Lash also came to, I think it was Field Service Europe, and gave a keynote there, which was also incredibly well received. Their book is another book I would highly recommend, Once Upon a Leader. And this episode gave some sneak peeks into that content, but we really focused the conversation around the idea of empowerment, which I think is really important. Episode 231, Transformational Leadership in the AI Era, with Dr. John Criscentieri, who is formerly of Medtronic. Dr. John is, again, he's a ray of sunshine, really, and so smart. So much experience and knowledge, and his, ideas around transactional versus transformational leadership are, fantastic on their own. But in this episode, we took those ideas, talked through some of them, and then talked about, how the uptick in AI is really putting an emphasis on the need for that transformational leadership. Episode 232, Creating a Culture of Safety in Field Service, with Franklin Maxon, Vice President of Field Services for North America at Socamac. I liked this episode because, if I'm being completely honest, when Franklin said he wanted to do a podcast around safety, I thought, okay, yeah, I mean, it's an important topic, but I thought it would be honestly kind of boring. And it wasn't at all, for a variety of reasons. One, Franklin shared some really personal stories that brought a lot of context to why he's so passionate about the topic. He also just, has really good specifics around, some of the things he's learned work and don't when you're trying to create a culture that focuses on this. And, shared some really honest lessons learned. It just ended up being a conversation that was not only important, but so compelling. And then the 10th episode on my list is episode 241, What I've Learned About Leadership Through My Breast Cancer Journey, with Linda Tucci, who is the Senior Global Director for Technical Solutions at Quidel Ortho. I adore Linda, and I was so honored that she came to have this conversation on our podcast. She was willing to be vulnerable and share what she's going through, which was so inspiring in and of itself. But the fact that she, not only, let her guard down and came on and shared her personal journey, but then, took that into learnings and insights that I think any leader could benefit from hearing, was just incredible. So definitely a must listen. And Linda, appreciate you so much. As a bonus, last week we had a really fun episode where Roy Dockery, Vice President of Operations at Flock Safety, interviewed me. and asked me to go back to my 2023 predictions and rank myself on how accurate I was. We also talked about, some of the events we both attended this year, some of the trends that we see, et cetera. It was a really fun episode. So that is the top 10 of 2023 with a bonus. And then I also wanted to just quickly rattle off some of the episodes that I recorded that were event summaries and key takeaways from some of the events that I attended this year. I had the opportunity to attend a lot of events this year, to engage with a lot of service leaders in person, and I enjoy that so much. I think it's really interesting to reflect back on these different events and see what some of the common challenges and opportunities are across the globe, across all of these different places. And also, just hear what was top of mind for some folks at the time. So episode 211 was Field Service Palm Springs. 214 was the Birmingham Future of Field Service Live Tour event. 215 was the Paris Live Tour event. 218, Minneapolis Live Tour event. 219, Dusseldorf Live Tour event. 227, Field Service Hilton Head. 234 was my summary of the wonderful Hot Topics Service Visionaries Top 100 award ceremony in the iconic Abbey Road Studios in London. Episode 235, the Stockholm Future of Field Service Live Tour. 237, Field Service Europe. And 240 was Field Service Connect. So if you want to kind of take a listen at what stood out to me, at least, from those different events and what people had to say there, what was, the bits that I took away. It doesn't mean that it was, comprehensive of what all was talked about or what someone else's summaries or key takeaways may consist of, but what stood out to me. So if you have missed some podcast episodes this year, that gives you some things to go back and dig into. If you're new to the podcast, gives you an idea of where to start. And again, I'm so thankful to all of the guests that have joined me on the podcast this year to share pieces of themselves with our community. Thank you. We have some great guests already lined up for 2024 and some exciting things to come. So I'm excited to keep the journey going. You can find all of the episodes I have referenced today and more by visiting us at futureoffieldservice.com. The Future of Field Service podcast is published in partnership with IFS. You can learn more at ifs.com. As always, thank you for listening.